So, is Heavy Object the worst anime of all time? A waste of time? Torture? A prank? What was the plot and what was the point? Will any of these questions be answered? No, but stick around anyway. Welcome to That Japanese Thing. My name is Chris. Today with me is Dylan and Yash. How you guys doing?
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah, I hope my voice is coming through okay.
Yeah.
Taking a few antihistamines and such, just to try not be nasally.
It's that time of year, hey?
Yeah, lots of pollen.
Certainly.
Locally, yeah.
My trees are just shedding their flower petals and such. And do you know what a fever tree is? It's like
No.
Yeah.
it's got these little like puffy dandelion-like flowers, which are just made of pollen. So I think that's probably the cause. But
Does
yeah,
it have like pink tips on those strands?
ye-
So, like it starts
yellow,
white and goes
yellow tips? Yeah.
yellow tips. Okay. No, I'm familiar with that plant. Then never mind.
It's it's a green tree with thorns, and then it gets like little yellow flowers. They kind of just disintegrate very quickly after they fall. But yeah. You're now into autumn, yeah?
Yeah, we are firmly into autumn. The wind has picked up a great deal. Chicago, the windy city, makes a lot more sense right now. I will say that the tree outside of my house has turned red, which I didn't actually expect because
Oh, you got maples.
all of these trees don't look to the ones that you see color changing. And yeah, we are firmly moving into a new season. I've actually got a mild case of the sniffles as the weather change was very significant. It's been raining for 5 days in a row now. And yeah, certainly the seasons, they are a turning.
Okay, the world marches on, but Heavy Object was an anime from 2015, and that's what we're here to talk about today. Under the suggestion of Yash, we all watched this. So maybe Yash, you can tell me what you think this was about.
So after watching Midnight Eye Goku, I was struggling to find why I disliked the second one so much more than the first. And I came to the realization that in the first Midnight Eye Goku, they handled something I call emotional logic much better. Where, if you think about it, the movie/show is terrible. But they try to stop you from thinking about it by presenting big explosions and emotional reasoning, which doesn't make sense, but it appeals to your emotions. The bad guys get hurt, and the big boom booms happen to give you the happy juice. And that's what this entire show is. Heavy Object's this kind of theoretical world in which war has largely been stopped by giant mechanical objects. The same premise as Gundam, effectively. And in this world, these giant objects fighting against each other has become the way that war works. We're presented initially with the idea that this has actually led to a more peaceful background life, as in not on the fronts of war, and that wars in general have become a lot less bloodsheddy in general. But immediately counteracting this, in the very first set of four episodes roughly, our main character basically goes up against two of these heavy objects with his best friend, and using magic explosive bricks brings about the end of these large, apparently war-ending objects. And the show just goes from there, trying to feed into your emotions the idea of protecting friends and just emotional logic the whole way down about, yay, fight the enemy and have the good juices flow into your brain through explosions.
Do you remember Discovery Season 3, Star Trek Discovery Season 3, where they were in a space battle? Might be the end of Season 2. And
Why do you hurt me like this, Chris?
and they're just there's this horrendous fleet battle going on around them, thousands of ships firing in all directions. And in the midst of this, one of the characters in engineering goes, "Math, F yeah," and like
I do
high fives
remember
another
that.
character, and then like they get out of the situation. That's kind of the level of intelligence I think that's applied to this anime.
So I won't
Maybe a bit
disagree
less.
with you. I won't disagree with you that that is the level of intelligence that is involved in here. But I think that this show has a couple of advantages on Discovery. The first being that it never pretended to be about anything intellectual ever. It began the show with a moron hunting a deer. And then it just stayed on that level or sunk slightly, which for me is a big plus. Star Trek Discovery tried to pretend to be something, and then if you tried to look at it, oh, here's acid in your eyes.
So Dill,
And
before
You're bringing me into this now.
before I go on to my list of complaints,
Guys, I never watched Discovery, so you know
That's okay.
I'm
Yeah, no, I'm just-
I'm
just,
innocent. Don't execute me. Yeah.
yeah, just
sorry.
what
Anyway,
was your
yep.
general opinion or anything you want to say before we just go on to fine points? I think
I will try and keep this to 2 points that are.
I'm gonna just say like
succinct.
there's going to be no regard for spoilers in this review slash going through.
But there
'Cause-
is
'cause there
nothing to
can't be.
spoil. There's nothing to spoil. No, there's no. Anyway, okay. So point number 1. This anime served as a good lesson for me, which I was explaining to Chris just now, which is that I was wrong. It's not that isekai is trash. And it's the first time I'll ever admit this. It is that light novel adaptations to anime, in general, on average, are trash. Because, my god, this reeks of the same problems, but only worse.
Well, I think that's a bit maybe like a little bit
That's
oversimplified.
that is my take on this. I'm providing my take.
Yeah.
And then number 2, I have to. I understand what Yesh is saying in the lead up, in that like there is what's a suspension of disbelief that can be
a suspension of
created.
any kind of logic.
Yeah. But I mean that leads to the whole concept of suspension of disbelief, right? When you're using emotive narrative tools to tell your story, this fails to do it in such a spectacular fashion that it's painful every minute to go through it for me. And it is a good example of how if you're gonna do it, make it short. Like half this series would have made me less opposed to it,
Yeah, look,
if I can word it that way.
I do agree with you, Joel.
That's-
This is the
those are my
hardest
points.
thing I've ever had to watch. I
We
think.
can move on from there, but that is what I had to say.
Sorry, Chris, what did you say?
No,
didn't
I
actually
think
hear
it's the hardest thing I've ever had to sit down and force myself to watch.
To endure.
Let's go back to Yesh's like first point though, just to
Mhm.
ground the insanity of some of the logic in this series. Like they say in the introduction that nuclear war is no longer possible due to these heavy objects, something like that.
Mhm.
They can shoot them down, yeah.
Well, not only can they shoot them down, they can withstand a direct strike from a tactical nuclear warhead.
Yet a man can simply climb onto one of these objects and
I mean-
walk into it and hold the operator hostage.
Yeah, you don't even have to go that far though, Chris. You can just say, and yet somehow a weapon that you can mount on the side of an object can go through an object.
Exactly.
It's incohesive. It cannot, like, to the extent where the first premise within the first minute fails so dismally.
That's a very important point you just made, Dylan. Within the first minute, it is not logical, and I think that's a good thing
Okay.
because it's telling you what the ride is at the get-go. The thing I find most offensive about any show I'm watching is if it tells me what it is in the beginning and then it doesn't do that. That I hate.
I
this
I
show
also
splatters
dislike
the
that.
paint. Splatters the paint outside of the lines right at the get-go and tells you you're watching a show for 4-year-olds immediately.
I will give you that. That still does not make
is
it
not for
pleasant to
4-year-olds.
watch.
I'm not trying to suggest it's some work of art or anything.
No,
However,
no,
while
No.
while watching Midnight Eye Goku, I was struggling to find that feeling. And I wanted you guys to watch this so that you can join me on this journey a little bit. The
Okay.
feeling was that Midnight Eye Goku, in the second one, tried to do this thing where it was going to present Goku as a more mature, real world type character, because in the second one it begins with like a sort of like sexual slavery type thing happening.
Yeah.
And then the guy that they are fighting is not like some big shot. He's like a small time criminal who's involved with that stuff. And then he just escapes and flees via it's a cool action scene. But like it's a wackadoodle action scene as well, where they try to get you to feel these like heavy emotions and this real world impact. And then the rest of that movie was total trash.
But
Okay,
I
on this-
must disagree, Yash. Like, there are no emotions in this story. It's very flat. There's no tension.
I'm not. That's what I'm trying to say though. In Midnight Eye Goku, we get presented with the idea that like the people involved in the story are people we need to feel bad for, and then a mecha soldier is destroying the world through ghost flames.
I hear what you're saying. There was a sharp disparity between Midnight Eye Goku 1 and 2, and you wanted to find out why, and the series speaks to that, and that's fine. My counter to this is yes. I took 2 hours of your time with Midnight Eye Goku 1 and 2. Technically, Greg did.
Let me finish my point though. And the main problem I had was in Midnight Eye Goku 1, we immediately go off the rails. We encounter a woman that is a bike and also a laser. And then whenever you're feeling like maybe some logic might soon be involved, naked ladies, suddenly bike ladies in a staircase and explosions. And then he shoots her head off and shoots her rider with her head.
Sure.
It does a better job of forcing you to go into that lower gear of explosions make the happy juice. And I actually think this show does a really good job of that. Even if it's a terrible show in many regards.
I don't think it succeeds in the same way as Midnight Eye
only
Goku.
does 2 things. It vacillates between inappropriate sexuality and then mediocre battle scenes. There's very little
the battle
else.
scenes.
No, they're not great.
No,
They're
they're
not great.
very boring.
They're not great. Nobody said they had to be great. I'm just saying I enjoyed them. They did the good juice for me.
Yes, there's nothing wrong with you enjoying it. I do not hold the same opinion in terms of quality of fight scene.
I couldn't enjoy the weird sexualization that was going on because most of it was like really age inappropriate. So we had a commanding officer who was sexually abusing the 2 male subordinates immediately underneath her. And then there was the 2 lolly characters who were kind of being sexualized as a result of her sexualizing the people above her. And then we had an inappropriate relationship between like the blonde guy and the pilot lolly character. Also him and the other one is the other pilot lolly character who was pretending to be an adult.
Look, when the female character is literally named Princess.
Yeah, and the other one's named Oh Ho Ho, because that's the sound she makes all the time. That's just literally just her name.
As a side note, another fantastic little glimpse into the future. When AI was taught how to draw anime art by feeding it all of the art on Twitter, effectively, asking it to generate any other character from real life into anime always gave those characters H-size boobs, even men, in the beginning. And I just felt like it was hilarious watching the AI generate a pop idol in this by converting this relatively small character into a G-cup. What did they call her?
Yeah,
G-cup. That's what they were calling her.
G-cup something.
Which is better than her real name. So.
This kind of okay. So anime.
It's a dumb
itself,
show. It is a dumb show.
Yeah, but look, one thing that I really am struggling with as we go through this, I was chatting with someone the other day about this, is like anime is particularly bad in terms of its gender dynamic generally on average, and portrayal of women. They're generally used as a tool to leverage your MCs, or which could, I mean, basically stand for male characters at this stage, right? This like just dives right into that mud and rolls around and squeals happily. Like it's really, it doesn't add anything to the story. It's terrible.
It's more Latina than Evangelion. Yes,
no, it's not. It's worse than that, because like it kind of, there is the pretense that this is like a war show, going on. So as a result, they need to deal with things they clearly don't want to deal with in the show, like giving out information and missions to the characters. But during those briefings, we're focused intensely on inappropriate angles of the lieutenant. She's a lieutenant, right?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Who knows? It doesn't really matter.
She's the lady in charge.
The
That's what
very
matters.
form-fitting, uniformed person who's in charge of the squad. And at one point, she's conducting one of her briefings in a gym. So
Oh,
we
yes.
we can
Yeah,
just
this-
really dive into it.
Every time she does an ab crunch, it's
I
so,
want to remind you guys, in the 2010s,
so bad.
this kind of sexualization was not only
but
common, it was
hold
like
on.
in
Hold
every...
on.
No.
Hold on. So that's not really like the point. That's inappropriate. It's weird. It's uncomfortable to watch. But
And it's poorly done.
and well, I mean, you know, they're achieving their objective. I
No,
imagine.
no,
But
yeah.
at the same time, I kept looking at the action scenes of the two guys running around. Like, first noticed it when they were in Australia, I think. And like the main character, he is just a weird stick man. Like
Yeah.
his arms are incredibly thin and weak. And I kept thinking, how can this man like be in the army and hold the things he's holding and just kind of interact with the world? And clearly they knew what they were doing, because like in like the gym scenes, like they're always failing at doing everything correctly. And it's like someone in the animation studio picked up on this and just kind of ran with it as a joke. You know, and like the female character is the one who's actually like physically like able to like, you know, at least lift weights and things. And those two are just, you know,
Amusingly,
trotting along on the treadmill, because the only role they have in any of the action scenes is to run away from things or run
And
towards
sometimes
them.
they climb up the side of a giant mecha, but regardless.
Yeah, somehow.
I will say some of the better drawn female characters with less shitty fan service were weirdly the nuns, the mercenary nuns. I don't know why they chose to respect
They
them.
were maids.
They were maids. My
They
bad.
had cat ears and
Yeah, I
full
remember
Victorian
that.
maid uniforms.
But look at the sexualization done to them. They were always fully clothed, and they were always like the shots were
yes, they were in sexy maid uniforms.
What's your
Yes,
team
I know.
saying
Yeah,
master?
and they were saying my master or my husband. She literally called the main character her husband after he paid her.
Hater. Yeah.
With diamonds.
But-
The symbolism
So
is not
bad.
subtle.
So bad. So bad.
I understand. But what I'm saying, they also made them muscular, which I thought was a very cool move, honestly, considering how shit the rest of the show is with regards to that.
I think there's like one muscular maid. I think the rest of them were
We were
like
normal, yeah. It was just the lead.
well, normal anime waifu style builds.
Yeah, it was like what is it? They just went through all the archetypes of like character types.
That's true. They did. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Then we also know that, like, okay, so she, in a number of scenes, like when she's on the aircraft carrier, she invites them
Which
to like
she?
a party, the lieutenant,
Commanding officer.
to
Okay.
give them another briefing, at which she like strips, does like a striptease show in front of them. These are the kind of things that just continue to happen, and she tries to force like the little girl to do the same thing, but thankfully like the pole breaks or something. And we don't see that.
Oh, yes.
And we just know she's always doing this. She's always like stretching in an inappropriate way to emphasize her body in order to assert some sort of dominance over like the two characters below her. And we finally get like some evidence in the TV episode where they have that weird reporter idol character.
The
come in.
reporter lady. Mm-hmm.
And she can't be her normal self anymore, which is an awful person, because she's being filmed and she realizes this. So she's trying so hard just to be like a competent commander for that episode, and she keeps failing because that's just not what the show is, I guess.
Can I ask a quick question as we're talking about like use of suggestive imagery and
Sure.
the rest? Do you feel like they did the ecchi well? Because I don't. I get that
they didn't do it well.
they didn't do it well, right? In other words, they
I'm
tried
grateful
and
for
it
that.
was shit. Like
No, I'm super grateful for that though. I don't want to be actually involved with. I think
Well, that's fine.
our princess is like 14 in this, so
That's fine. That's fine. They still attempted to do it, right?
they
They're
took a
so
swing.
guilty
They
of that,
swing.
and they're guilty of it being horrible in terms of quality. Like this is it's bad all the way through for me.
It was. So
It's very difficult to find a redeeming quality.
So actually, I went to the gym a few times while watching this, and just walked on the treadmill to watch the thing, and it was done just well enough to be embarrassing to watch in a public space. But I don't think particularly good in any other way.
I'm glad that I didn't have to watch it in a public space, I have to say. People would be asking me if I'm alright.
But further to the point, Dylan was saying, like, this is a series of light novels. I don't know how many in particular. One imagines every
There were
time they're in a
10, I
different
think.
biome, it's like a different
Yeah.
light novel.
I mean, the anime puts like the title in the corner every now and then,
Yeah.
and it sounds like the title of an arc in a light novel.
And so it's very repetitive. We have, like, very clearly the introduction light novel,
It's
which, we introduced the characters, and I had some hopes in the beginning that maybe, like, something fun was about to happen, that someone might develop a personality that wasn't just a debaucherous, abhorrent monster of a human being.
Can I make you guys rather depressed?
No, not yet.
I mean, you
And
have
then-
already.
And then it just devolves into 9 to 11 additional 2-episode arcs of we get a briefing, they get deployed, they go and fight an implausibly hard opponent, they defeat them. Not in a clever way, but in a way that kind of, makes you just think, oh, I guess they needed to shoot him from this angle, and somehow they found out how to do that. Oh, wow. I
Chris,
guess
say it right. Magic exploding bricks make boom.
Yeah.
that does happen twice. That is like a way they defeat like an object on 2 occasions. But sometimes it's not even that clever. And it kind of turns out like the anime they only really had like 2 biomes, like snow biome and then like desert biome. That was repeatedly used. Probably in the light novels they were in different places, I would imagine. I guess there was also like the sea. The sea was a thing. But yeah, it just, it's, and there also seemingly no like real consequences to any of the battles. They didn't develop the story. You didn't feel like any of the nations would be being threatened or would cease to exist if they failed to do one of these things. Maybe sometimes a city was under siege.
I have to say, like, I love the fact that throughout this whole series, this one student and his buddy keep racking up kills that are like,
Yeah.
I mean, like, they're essentially like defeating nations each time they do this, right?
Yeah,
they're like literally
these are, like,
conquering.
white wolf numbers, right?
By the story that's given to us in the beginning, they're conquering nations each time.
They are
And-
more effective than a tactical
At no,
nuke.
at no
Apparently.
stage is someone like, oh, well, why don't we just kidnap this kid's family or kill him? Because he obviously is God, right? Like, no one's been able to do this before.
Well,
it's this one guy. Let's
you
just
say
murder
that-
him.
But literally one of the arcs in this is a politician going, you guys are upsetting things. We need you to die now, please.
No. He sends them out into the field.
Yes.
Where they're obviously, like, competent, like, in inverted commas competent, because they're not actually, but, like, they have plot armor that is thicker than the actual object's armor. The dude knows.
Yeah.
He could have just called him into the office and been like, cool, bang, problem over, let's move on. No.
I mean, his
mean,
plot
uh,
armor is so
in a
thick he
horror
gets
movie-
hit by a frag grenade at some point. And
Oh, that's right.
Literally 45
Oh,
minutes later,
he
he's
goes
just
through.
running
He goes
down
through like a
corridor.
level 5 car wreck, end over end over end, right?
Okay, guys,
His heart stops.
Naruto can run underwater. I don't know what you want from me here. Look at
No,
the
no,
anime
no.
and figure out the rules.
Yeah, Naruto has magical demon fox powers, yes. This dude
Yeah,
is
this
just
guy
blonde.
has plot
There's
armor.
nothing... Blonde and very weak, as defined by the show's logic.
That's smart. He's smart. Anyway, yeah. There is another problem with this. in that like
Mhm.
the writer, and I just want to highlight this quickly because I don't want to go through all the problems because
All
it's
of
just
the
going
problems,
to
'cause
lag
there's
on.
lots.
It'll be
Yeah,
a
yeah,
while.
it's going to lag on. But one thing that I've seen
Kazuma
happen a couple of
Kamachi.
times, yeah, is when someone tries to write an intelligent character, like a hyper intelligent, like almost super intelligent level character, right? Someone who can find his way out of problems that no one else can do. But the
Right.
writer themselves is not up to the task.
Mhm.
That's when it
So
fails.
we're in no gain, no life territory.
Yeah, that's when it fails catastrophically for me because the problems become trivially silly. The solutions become nonsensical, and the character itself, that is supposed to be portrayed as being intelligent, comes across as just being a Dumb and Dumber type character, actually. So that is just one thing I'd like to highlight, but I don't want to go through everything that's wrong with
That's wrong with the
the
show.
IP. Yeah.
I mean, he's,
So now
he's
for-
done some other stuff as well, right? Which I don't like any more than I like this, but many people would say it's actually very good. So he's a certain magical index person, and or the subsequent a certain something series.
A certain
person.
something, yeah. As a side note, I love A Certain Scientific Railgun. I think that's one of the better shows I've watched.
Okay.
But the magic side of that is terrible.
Veto. We're not watching.
No,
Veto.
no, no. There's like 400 episodes. We're not doing that.
No. Yeah. This.
I don't
No,
think that's
there
true. I
are
think there's like
limits. There
30 or
are
something,
limits.
but yeah.
I will defend myself, Yesh.
But look, I don't want to watch it. I think it's very similar to this in a lot of ways, except all the characters are female. But anyway,
Okay. Well.
moving on. I'm just saying, like, it's not necessarily like that. This is his be all end all. I mean, there are
No, certainly.
certain magical index,
actually a lot
certain
better than this.
scientific railgun or whatever is actually like
Both
well
Index
well
and
acclaimed,
Railgun
right?
are better than this by a very wide margin because he's actually trying.
Sure.
In this, he very clearly sets up right in episode 1. This is for idiots, and if you think about it, it's going to be bad. So try not to think about it.
I tried hard. It was still painful.
I think the show gives me a lot of good things. Firstly, it tells me that Gundam is well written. A lot of people have suggested that Gundam is like war stuff for idiots. It's just how does suddenly a tank has 2 legs, it annihilates everything. And I think Gundam establishes itself relatively well in talking about how the mobility
this
helps
is
and stuff.
similar to some Gundams, though. Yes, I mean, it depends.
is similar,
It depends
But
intensely
it
on which Gundam you're
clearly
talking about.
bounces off. It clearly bounces off attempting to discuss anything. This show is just like, this is how it is. Metal balloons rule the battlefield, just accept it. And it doesn't try to justify it. Whereas Gundam actually tries to justify things. And when people try to insult Gundam by saying it's just a dumb fantasy thing that doesn't make any degree of sense, I think this show does a great job in showing that Gundam actually tries to justify itself.
But, I
It
mean,
may
so
not make
Gundam did this better, and I'm sure this is kind of what the introduction of this was based off.
Absolutely.
There was a Gundam, I can't remember which Gundam it was, where like they just had a device that stopped nuclear weapons working, and they just deployed these all over Earth.
Wasn't that Seed?
That might have been Seed.
I'm not sure if
The
it was
Gundam
Seed. I
that I
think it
will
was
not
like
watch.
the one where they were on Earth and everyone in had their own national like Gundam as like a fighting
Oh.
unit.
No, that's not 08.
But I mean, maybe it you know.
I think it's.
I think that's where it
it's a-
started. Maybe that
I think
led
it's a
over
common.
into very other Gundams.
Yeah, I think it's a common Gundam trope that you get stuff that like kind of inerts nuclear weapons,
But,
and
like,
then things that inert.
just
and
Give me a
counter-
line in this Yesh that says, oh, the heavy objects, generate a field which stops nuclear reactions, right? Give me
Well, they do
something.
say that they intercept and blow them up in orbit. They don't
No.
take the hit directly.
No, they do take
They
it.
say
No,
that-
rewatch
say
your
they
first
can't-
episode.
Yeah,
They say they can take a direct hit,
yeah.
which is dumb.
I know.
But they also say that
So
firing
dumb.
at them doesn't work because they counteract everything.
Also, if you have to get around one of these objects with a nuke, apparently it's really not that hard. If a couple
not a-
of students can kind of sneak
And
onto
just
one.
run up to it.
Not only,
I fully agree.
yeah. I mean, like it's to the level of saying, okay, each country basically, or each nation basically has one or maybe a handful of these things. They're really, really large, but they're no larger than like a skyscraper, right? They're in that kind of category of largeness.
They're like a large, I don't know, like a gunship. Maybe not an aircraft carrier size, but like a really big gun platform.
Really, yeah. Really, really, really big. One of them. So, and they can go at like the fastest one we saw, which everyone was like super wowed by, went at like 700 k's per hour, right? So
Right.
dropping in paratroopers behind the thing, right? Staying out of line of sight, because none of these things have any weapons that aren't, in fact, like line of sight. Just dropping paratroopers behind these things to take that city. Not a valid tactic anymore for some reason. Please switch your brain off here.
Yeah.
You have to switch your brain.
You have to.
You do that right at the beginning.
But the problem is it keeps reminding you how like the difference is, right, in the areas where Gundam needs you to often in different series, right? I'm talking about Gundam as in like a singular thing is kind of weird in
Crazy
my
as
mind.
well.
Sure.
But when it does ask you to switch your brain off about a particular thing, it doesn't push your face into it all the time every 5
Yeah,
minutes.
Gundam's more like,
This-
just look away for a while.
This
rather
this
than completely-
forces you to do it literally every 5 minutes. Every 5 minutes, there is such a big, like, divorce from reality, and even the mechanics within the show itself
exactly.
are like incoherent. That you have to
What?
like numb yourself to watch this. This would be great if you're on like huge doses of Prozac whilst watching it. Then maybe.
No, because you need a downer. You need to be completely stoned. Maybe I think you need your brain not to be working. Yeah, can't take
Jeez.
any stimulants.
Sorry.
But,
yeah, lithium is fine.
Yeah, or something like
Lithium.
that, right? But or just be real drunk. Maybe that would work.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't think real drunk would work.
Just
Because
think
you
about
wouldn't
this,
be
right?
able to justify
So the
yourself.
premise of the heavy objects and their pilots is there need to be these young women for whatever reason. This is a
Oh no,
common
men
trope.
pilots as well. One of our primary enemies is a prince.
Sure, but you know they're
And they're like genetically modified.
Genetically modified. They're highly trained, so on and so forth. It gives an excuse for young people to be in this position. I get that. That's the conceit. That's fine. That's how Mecha works, right?
It's
it's some
the
reason.
Power Rangers effect. For some
Indeed.
reason, the teens have to do it.
At least that was like
And
supposedly, argued for, and you immediately ask yourself, okay, well, that seems a bit dumb. Why can't we just use technology to solve this issue? And
And then
turns
they-
out we
it's
can.
Presented.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can.
Turns out, like,
But
the
there's a
14-year-old girl
national-
pilot of one of these other ones just writes some code, and her thing is now automatic.
No, well, the AI in her system was made by the military. She's just debugging it in real time.
Great.
So the AI was created long ago. It was developed in a lab.
In either
It was
case,
tested and
we
everything.
don't need to put little girls on the battlefield.
Well, no.
Yeah.
But like they said, one of the main storylines was that AI was kind of like super banned in this world because people were afraid that super objects with AI in it would destroy everything.
Okay.
And this
I mean,
nation
regardless of
is
that, Josh,
like
just
illegally
the fact that she's
doing
remotely
that.
piloting it, there's just no need for any of the
Yes,
things
the
that are
second
happening on screen.
generation. Well, I mean, if you want to go down that route, every show we have ever watched involving any sci-fi in futuristic sense also doesn't need to exist. By the time Star Trek exists, they'd be able to make their computer plot where to shoot the lasers. By the time Star Wars exists, you could lightspeed into the Death Star. There's no need for anyone to do anything.
Well, I mean, there are obviously like flaws in the logic of all of those things. Mm-hmm. But this one,
But
this one is
that's what I'm
particularly
saying.
egregious.
This
In
one,
every
it's the
instance.
exact same reasoning why in a horror movie you don't call the police. Because if you think about it and put the logical answer down, almost all of these movies stop
But the
working.
good horror stories usually
No.
try to work around that.
but again, Yesh, you only have to do it once or twice, right? You don't have to do it
I mean, this
all
is
the
why
time.
horror stories happen in small towns or in the middle of nowhere. And those
The,
What I'm
sto- the
saying
story,
is
the stories still work because they don't force you to do it in perpetuity. They force you to do it a couple of critical moments to allow the story to progress. You can get over it at that stage, or you
Okay,
can make a joke
What I'm
about it.
saying, specifically to the point that a machine could do this better, is that they present in the universe that machines can't do it better when the story begins, and there is a nation trying to make it work, but it's not working.
Okay. I don't know about that. I'm just there's also the 4 super alliance groups, and I would understand why the religious faction would be against that, I suppose. But it's weird that not one of the others have tried to do such a thing.
Well, the thing is that it's presented that all of the nations were researching AI, and then a horrible event happened that created a international organization to stop it. And actually, one of the stories is a scientist inside the supposedly good nation that our Quenther comes from, was developing it. And then the other nation that's using it, the one with the red pilot, kidnaps him, or tries to kidnap him, before Quenther single-handedly busts into a war and arrests him himself.
Oh boy.
So there's like an illegal research thing happening inside our supposedly good nation to do the AI thing, Chris. But
Yeah.
at the same time, it's literally, it has to be kept underground, and the people supporting them had to like wash their hands of them, and they put that guy in prison, which created the secondary plot where they made mind control software.
Do you guys
Yep,
think
yep.
it's possible that the writer of this made this as like a
joke?
meta commentary? Yeah, a joke of like how shit light novels are and how formulaic they are, and like just took it to the extreme, and somehow it did really, really well enough to be turned into an actual anime.
An anime. So this author has burnt out on 4 separate occasions of writing light novels. He has literally been harassed
Heavy
by his
Object is still in
viewers,
production.
the
so
writers,
I don't know. That's true.
to the point where he quit writing for a year or two, for 4 times. So if you want to say that this is like a cynical, I could write total trash and people will still lap it up kind of thing, it's entirely possible with this
Yeah.
guy. Because I know his other works and they are of a higher quality than this. Not high quality, but higher quality than
I mean, I'm not claiming that. I'm just trying to find something that could be like, okay, it makes sense that this was made this way.
I mean,
You
I
know, it
don't
was written this way.
blame him at all for the resulting anime that this is.
I
mean-
mean, I haven't read the light novels, so I
I'm
can't
sure.
either.
I mean, having read a few light novels, like they don't tend to dwell on like sexualizing things as much as anime tends to. Like like Konosuba doesn't. All the characters look very different to how they're portrayed in the actual anime, right?
Oh, okay.
No
Well,
one has gigantic
Konosuba,
breasts, and
the-
no one's
the
wearing
studio
weird body-fitting
wanted
suits
to-
and things.
The thing about how the characters are drawn in the anime is actually a purposeful attempt to tell you what kind of anime it is from the get-go.
Yeah, it's
that-
not a, I'm not,
there's
not
lots
a
of
bad
hope
example
there,
of an
but it's
anime or
going to be
anything.
disappointing.
I'm just saying, like, this is probably not necessarily reflective of the actual light novel.
Light novel, you mean?
Although
so
I'm,
I
sh-
haven't
I'm,
read
I'm sure the plot is probably the same.
almost certainly directly lifted. The plot almost certainly would be directly lifted. But I will say, sorry, Konosuba lore, when the art studio got the light novels and read it, they wanted to present. I found this quote relatively amusing for me. All of a man's hopes are there, but they are somehow disappointing, is what they wanted to present. And thus we got that strange clothing quirk in Konosuba, Chris.
Well-
I assume you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know what you mean, and also the author of the light novel actually got a lot of say in the artwork for the anime. So it while being very different from the descriptions of characters, maintains like the personality.
Theme, personality
yeah.
of them, yeah.
Yes, have you read the Heavy Object light novels?
I haven't read all of them.
Oh, okay.
I've read 2 of them.
So how do they fare up compared to the anime? Are they still dumb as fuck?
I think because it's not being presented in a visual format, it's a lot easier to hand wave some of the dumber parts. You do get more of Quenther's internal dialogue, which tries to justify things a bit more. But the end results of everything are relatively similar, where it's still something I genuinely think you have to turn your brain off and just go yay explosions for. Because, I mean, the initial presentation is these things have taken over the battlefield and are immune to mundane logistics. I will say, on the other side of the coin, it does talk about some stuff that I thought was hilarious that I didn't think about while watching the anime. For example, despite all of these heavy objects completely making all of these other weapons worthless, they are still produced because the military-industrial complex has to pay people, and people need to profit from it. So despite the fact that tanks and handguns no longer have any place in the battlefield, they are still produced. Which I think the anime tries to show why they have all of those things and are repairing them. In the first episode, maybe?
Okay.
I thought that was like an interesting haha moment for the show. Because yeah, it does present that heavy objects have replaced war. So why are there tanks? Why are there jeeps? What's all of this?
Yeah, I mean that is not really covered in the anime.
I mean, I don't know
It
if
isn't
that needed
covered
to
in
be
the-
explained, though, really. I mean, one assumes you would
thought it
need
was-
light
I thought it
hardware for
was-
other reasons.
Well, maybe.
Mm,
But like, it's presented that basically all war has been stopped by heavy objects. So the fact that they have a surplus of tanks is kind of dumb.
Yeah.
But apart from that, like a few details, I'm going to say, it's like a few world details. Generally, the light novel is of a similar quality and of a similar thought process.
Okay.
Which explains why I've read 2 out of the 10.
Okay, is there anything else to be said about this? I mean, I don't know. I can't think of an anime I've enjoyed less than this.
Wow, that's actually impressive.
Yeah, look, I can think, I think I'd be able to come up with ones, but this would be certainly close to the bottom of the list for me.
I mean, Sword Art Online offended me a lot more than this.
I'm just glad that there wasn't another season.
I think the thing is, though, Yash, that I could stop watching Sword Art Online if I wanted to. This I had to keep watching.
Yeah. This is the other thing. Sword Art Online, the first one was not as bad for me as this was. Not in the slightest.
Of this weren't bad. As soon as we go into the bit where Kirito becomes God, I hated
Okay,
it
so
much.
so there I had to. Okay, yeah. Look, I didn't find it nearly as torturous as this by a long mile.
And I think
what I would
the main-
like to. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I think the main reason I was so offended by Sword Art Online is because it does the exact opposite of what this does. It tried to present you with the idea that we're
Okay.
going to talk about a game and it's going to be high fidelity with good animation
Yeah.
and it's going to be
But that's
super
that's
well
like,
done.
That's one
And then
faux pas. That's like one faux pas that it made versus this thing making a faux pas every 2 seconds. I just to talk about like the main reason why we're here, which you mentioned in the beginning, right? Is the comparison, the switch from Midnight Eye Goku 1 to 2, how much better the suspension of disbelief and the emotional rational was in the first one versus the second one, which is why the second one fell more flat for you.
Certainly.
I think the redeeming quality in those is that each of those are an hour long, like less than an hour long. And so you can watch it and go, oh my god, this is 80s like aesthetic pushed to 11. Chicks with like handlebars coming out of their heads and things. Like, wow, this is a work of
And then you watch the second one and you're like, oh, more of the same. Okay, got it.
Yeah. But it ends relatively quickly. So you can be like we did. We can't really recommend this, but man, the aesthetic is wild. So if you want to go for a wild ride, go watch that. But it isn't particularly good. Versus this, which is it isn't particularly good. It suffers from, like for me at least, not for you, and I grant you that. It's just a subjective difference here. For me, it fails in the same way as the second one, right? It's not compelling in terms of its action for me. It's not compelling in terms of its storyline. The ecchi isn't good, and it's problematic. It's making so many faux pas as we go along that it's out and out irredeemable for me. And on top of that, and this is going back to the Midnight Eye Goku thing, this thing is 24 episodes long versus 2 one-hour episodes, which would be the equivalent of the first 4 episodes of this. So if you were to say to me, Dylan, watch the first 4, I would probably be like, yeah, I wasn't a fan, but at least it ended quickly. This is, I wasn't a fan. Why are we stuck in this perpetual hell? Someone end it, please.
It's also if you were to just compare it to something, I would say this is kind of like a like stripped down Full Metal Panic. It has a lot of the same elements in it.
I was going to bring up Full Metal Panic while we were talking, but I thought it would bloat the discussion. It is very Fumofu and Full Metal Panic in some aspects.
I mean,
just
we
terribly done.
We have mecha. These are giant mecha, obviously.
But
and
at least
Full Metal Panic
Fumofu was funny.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm just saying, like, if you wanted to just compare it to something and see that you can do something exactly like this, but in a way that's actually enjoyable and with a plot, it'd be very easy to do. Just watch Full Metal Panic.
Full Metal Panic really does have a plot. It does progress. Like,
It does.
you know, there is backstory,
It's very
there are
slowly,
things
but
that
it does.
interlead.
And everyone has a unique personality, and I hate very few of them. You
I mean,
also-
if you guys had said-
you have your lolly character who's in charge of a submarine for some reason. It makes
See, I
sense.
forget these
12-year-old
things.
Got your
Yeah.
16-year-olds in mechs.
And she sleeps on top of him in a vest.
Yeah.
Sure.
No, it is I'm not a fan of that, but at least there are redeemable qualities, which mean that I can find myself enjoying it. And if you had said to me, "Hey guys, we're doing Full Metal Panic as a retro discussion," I would have been like, "Oh, cool! I get to revisit that from
Well, I specifically
decades
wanted
ago."
to watch
2018 was
this
the last
because
Full
it
Metal
feels
Panic.
like we've been suggesting anime that we all love and everything, which is great. But I did feel like our conversation fell flat in Goku when we were discussing Goku, because it feels like we haven't discussed what happens when anime goes wrong too much. I
Okay.
didn't want the rest of the show to be like the what happens when anime goes wrong. I still find the run enjoyable to a certain extent, but I did think that this is a good study in establishing what your anime is right at the beginning, and then there are lots of things that go wrong with it. But I personally think this is a good case study for discussing. For example, in the future, I think if when we're discussing other anime, we can refer to this as like what this anime does right, where Heavy Object does it wrong, etc.
Okay.
So for a breadth of experience, I think this was super.
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
And there's an anime related to this that is just many times better than this that I would like to do for next time, although it won't
Wait.
be next time on this podcast.
Hang on a second. Wait,
No.
Did you make us watch? Did you make us watch Heavy Object just so that you could pass by, submit an offering, and because it's not Heavy Object, we'd be like, thank God. Was
Yes,
that part of your plan
absolutely.
all along? Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Because it's too long.
yes,
Normally we
you're
wouldn't
not
want it.
allowed to suggest anything for at least 2 months after this. We'll
No,
have
come
a discussion about that later.
Chris,
Yeah.
Suicide no Gargantia is the better version of this.
No, it's certainly
How many-
not.
how
It's
many
not- It's
episodes-
not related. It was like
It's-
12.
24.
No,
It's 24.
No, surely not.
No.
Look it up.
No.
Look it up.
No. I will
It
not
was
do
like
another
a season,
24.
surely.
No,
Suicide no
you can't
Gargantia.
make me. You can't make me do it.
I will say this, Dylan. It is infinitely better than this, but I don't think there's particular merit to watching it. Anyway, I don't think anyone should watch this or ever think about it again. So that's my opinion. 0 out of 10.
Wow.
What do you think?
Wow.
Dill?
I've basically said all I can say. That there's no redeeming quality that I can find. I wouldn't be able to recommend this on any merit. There's
Yeah, it's not even like
Yeah.
good animation. It's very middle
It's
of
no-
the ground.
no-
the music is
no good story,
Inspired.
not good fight scenes, not good animation, not good
The
mecha, not good
openings
sci-fi.
aren't great.
It's all lackluster. Plus all the problematic tropes that are just like prevalent in everything. Plus everything
I want-
else.
Very in
like,
your face.
I want to remind you,
Trips, yeah.
Haruno Sakura was being ignored in a corner of Naruto while this was airing.
Okay.
It's
another
problematic
show.
for 8 years ago.
No, it's problematic.
yeah.
for
I'm
every
not.
time.
I'm not saying that it's the only problematic. Yes,
Yes,
when I
no,
say
I
that,
understand.
I even caveated by saying, like everything else, I'm just saying that there are no good qualities to this for me, and so I would struggle to recommend it, right? And with that said, like I'd even struggle to recommend it for you because you see something in this that I can't comprehend, right? So I'm not saying it's like it's there. I grant you it's there, but this is one of those gaps that we find where I can't quite understand why you find it appealing, but I know that you do. But I would never be able to be like, hey, Yesh, this thing you will love, right? I wouldn't be able to do that because I wouldn't be able to see what about it you actually like.
Pauldrons that they're wearing that would just hamper you like completely as a soldier?
And serve no purpose.
Is that why their arms need to be so thin so they can fit into these weird armored pauldrons that they wear over
No,
fat
I
chest?
give the show a 4.5 out of 10. I think it's worth an experience, but it's a waste of time as well. It's too long. It should have been 12 episodes.
Even that makes no sense. Even that makes no
I-
sense.
I think that
And we're like
there's stuff
averaging
in
like 2
here.
out of 10 here, if that's the case.
I think there's stuff in here that is worth seeing. I just don't think the show as a whole is worth seeing.
I think
Ugh.
the electricity and the human effort that was spent on this is just
No.
an
Chris.
appalling waste of time.
Oh,
I'm
so
glad,
I
people
suppose you
got-
gave it a 0.
I'm glad people got paid for it. But I was
Chris.
I was watching it on Amazon Prime, right? And so there's a little blurb for each episode which I would read. And I was like,
Yeah.
I'm so sad a human being had to write this. And then I thought,
Chris.
oh, they just copied and pasted it from the previous one. They just changed a few words, so it wasn't that bad, I guess.
It wasn't that bad.
I can,
I'm
guys,
gonna
I can think of
And
one use
then,
for this.
and then I realized
yes,
they
Dylan.
had to watch the episode to write the blurb, and then I was sad again.
Okay.
Yes,
well,
Dylan?
apart from making Chris sad as a function, right? I can think of one use for this, which is if you are finding all anime around you completely dismal, you want to watch anime, but it's really painful to watch, and you can't enjoy it. Just put yourself through this like a palate cleanse.
Oh, you know,
And then at the end of it, you'll be so
Yeah.
grateful
You-
for anything else that you will be like, it's not as bad as I
a
thought.
lovely sorbet to make every other anime taste like rich ice cream.
So, Dylan, if you go back and listen to what I was saying in the Midnight Eye Goku, I said almost exactly that.
Okay.
That perhaps we have been a little bit spoiled because this still feels good to me. Maybe we should watch some slightly
So-
worse anime.
I
So-
kind of disagree because this is just drops the bar so low that it's like I would rather watch less anime provided that it's
have either
good.
of you watched Undead Unluck yet?
No, not
Yeah.
yet. I need to.
Okay, so I watched a few of these episodes and then I switched to Undead Unluck when it came out, first episode, and maybe my opinion of it is just based on that.
Oh,
I saw
but-
you
Oh,
were
you see,
enjoying
that's
it, and I was
dangerous.
like, what?
that's dangerous.
But
That's so
really-
dangerous.
really-
Anime?
Yesh,
Undead
what have
Unluck
you
is amazing
what have you
now.
done, Yesh?
Think about it, Dylan. Chris has
Fuck.
been on a down and not enjoying anime for a while. And then he watched like 6 episodes of this, and now he's in love with the show.
Hey, I'm still enjoying anime.
That's not a good thing.
But
Oh,
yeah,
no.
we were trailing towards the end of a season which didn't have very much in it. And,
No, it was very disappointing, unfortunately.
But
The
anyway,
new season has Eminence in Shadow. That's all you need.
oh dear God. Well, you know, Yesh,
No,
I kind of
we're not.
understand why you like Eminence in the Shadow now. Because it's very similar to this in some ways.
You just have to lower your standards. No, please, no. Chris, no, no. Just no.
I
Eminence
mean,
in
it's
Shadow
about a
is
boy and his
way better.
harem. Okay.
I
Well,
mean,
the
that's
harem
a
never-
light novel anime, so
And nothing makes sense
But
in it.
also, he doesn't treat his harem as a harem because he doesn't believe they're genuinely there. He thinks they're play acting to appeal to his childish side still.
Right.
Which is
Sure.
a super important distinction because he's not trying to flirt with them.
There
He's
is-
never trying to get with them.
I've stopped watching Eminence in the Shadow, but there was a scene where one of the characters is an author, and
Yes.
they do a more dramatized version of Eminence in the Shadow, and it felt
They're
exactly
writing a
like
shitty
this.
light novel. Yeah, inside the light novel.
Yep. Anyway, folks, that'll do it
Mm-hmm.
for this week. Thank you for listening to this. As I said, there were no answers here, but thank you for listening anyway. This has been The Japanese Thing. Ciao for now.
Bye. Please don't subject yourself to this anime. Bye.